Welcome to Battle Report 7. This is a game from our local Games Workshop League. It's 2,500 points using the end times rules, and I'm taking my Dwarfs. Not against my usual opponent Colin, but this is against a guy called Lee, and he's got a rather good Lizardmen army. He featured in the recent Painting Masters tournament in the United Kingdom. My army comprised of a Dwarf Lord on shield bearers. He's kitted out so it gives him the 6+ strength, the 7 toughness and the 6 wounds. I've then got 2 runesmiths, both have got runes of spell eating, and then I've got a BSB which has got Grungni, the 5+ ward to shooting and magic spells, and also runes of slowness. For my core I'm taking a unit of Longbeards which have got axe and shield, and they've got the rune of stoicism giving them stubborn. I've then got a unit of 10 quarrelers who have got shields and a musician. Moving on to special, I've got a cannon with the rune of forging. I've then got 2 gyrocopters, and into rare I've got 2 organ guns with accuracy and forging and burning, and then I have the Iron Drakes with 2 runes of slowness. Oh, and I missed out, I've got a master engineer who's got a 1-up save. My opponent's army is superbly painted and based, and he's taken a Old Blood on a Carnosaur as his general. He's then got 3 spellcasters, 1 level 2, 2 level 1s. He's then got 2 blocks of Saurus, a Salamander pack. He's then got a Dreadsaurus, and he's got a unit of Croxigor and 1 unit of 5 cold ones, and he's then got a Stegodon with blowpipes. Obviously no magic for the dwarves, but I did roll a 1 for the grudge, so my general hates his general. All the skink priests were on Heaven's Magic, and he had the Comet of Cassandora, Uran's Thunderbolt, Curse of the Midnight Wind and Chain Lightning. All things that could cause a lot of trouble to my dwarfs. As you'll see, it does do a bit of damage. Lee's army has got some really big, quick-moving heavy hitters, so I had to go with the dwarves in corner hammer. So my deployment and setup is as follows. I needed to have some good shooting lines, so I set up on a hill with the Iron Drakes against the board edge, denying a flank. I then had the Longbeards to their right. Behind them was 1 organ gun, the cannon and the other organ gun, with the master engineer in the middle. I then put a gyrocopter on this side just to scout around. My quarrelers were to my right, and my another gyrocopter was to the far right. The plan was to try and thin down the lizards as they were coming in. They were going to be quite tough, and if I couldn't do any damage on them as soon as they got in, they really would start chopping up my troops. Lee's units are pretty big. Some of the bases that he's got are much bigger than the bases that they should be on, so he does struggle a little bit getting them in on the deployment zones. But from the left he put his Salamander pack down with the first unit of Sauruses close to their flank. He then put his 3 casting mages by the tower. To the right of the tower he had his unit of 5 cold ones. He then had the Carnosaur with the Old Blood, the Dreadsaurus, quite a horrendous little beastie when it gets into combat. His second block of Saurus warriors, bigger horde formation, and then his Stegodon with the blowpipes, and on the far right you can just see his 3 Croxigor units. I was a little bit surprised with his deployment, going so far out to the right. It was going to take a little bit of time, I thought, for him to come round. However, they did seem to come round quite quick. My dwarfs were finished deploying first, so I got the +1 roll off to go first, and yep, I managed to get that, and so dwarfs turn 1. Not a vast amount of moving. I moved the Iron Drakes forward to get them a little bit closer, so that the 18-inch range, he may well come into that a bit sooner than I could get to him. Move the Longbeards up a little bit to use the little building to support and protect their flank. Move the gyrocopter up on the left. and then move the gyrocopter on the right up behind the building. I did think it was going to be safe there. Obviously no magic for the dwarfs, so it was on to shooting. The organ gun on the far left takes out around about 5 of the Saurus warriors from that left hand unit. The cannon, I go for 8 from the back of the Dreadsaurus. I tend to go 8 inches, just gives me a little bit of an option, but however I roll a 10 so it overshoots it. Lizardmen turn 1 and the Salamander unit moves up, the Saurus warriors move up, and then the rest of his right centre and right flank move up, with the cold ones coming up level with the tower, the old blood on the Carnosaur moving up, and the rest of the lizards following them up as well. On the right hand side, this is where I made a mistake with my gyrocopter. He was able to move the Stegodon up its full move, and yep, it was in range of the poisonous blowpipes. Onto Lizardman magic, and it's 6-2 for the power dice. He goes for chain lightning, and it's on a 19, so it's going to be quite hard. So I use the first rune of spell eating, but dispels it, but fails to eat the spell up. So he then tries Uranan's Thunderbolt, and I let it go because I've got the Banner of Grungni, and he does 1 wound to one of the organ guns. However, in shooting, he gets 24 shots with the blowpipes, which in the end do 6 wounds to the gyrocopter. It's certainly peppered and dead. On the left flank, the Salamander in front of the Iron Drakes takes a template shot at the Longbeards, but the flame template only travels 4 inches and misses them. On to Dwarf turn 2, and what a turn it was. Not very much killed, but some real big surprises. Shooting on the left flank takes out another rank of Saurus from the block, and I take all the crew off of the Salamander, meaning that it has to take a monster reaction test, and it gets the best one really available for it, that it's going to stay there and continue to shoot at what it likes. Lee's got some really big bases for his Carnosaur and his Dreadsaurus, so what I said was that what we'll do for the shooting is that I'll treat it just the same as a normal size base. So I went for 8 inches from the back of the Dreadsaurus, and I roll a 10, obviously then meaning that it bounces over and doesn't do any damage to it. If you look very carefully at this picture, you'll see something quite amazing. Yep, the cold ones and the Carnosaur are facing the wrong way. I managed to take another wound off the cold ones, and they failed their 3d6 leadership test and fled. And the Carnosaur with the old blood next door to them also failed their 3d6 leadership test and fled. I've never seen that before playing lizards. They normally always stop and stay. This was a really big blow for Lee, and it meant that the thunder of the dinosaurs' hooves were not going to be coming quite so quick as they were, and this was going to leave me breathing space to try and thin out some of the other troops that were advancing on me. On to Lizardmen turn 2, and I do get another lucky break. The Dreadsaurus charges my crossbowman. I decide to stand. I do stand and shoot, and I manage with the 10 crossbowmen to take 2 wounds off the Dreadsaurus. The Dreadsaurus rolls double 1 for its charge. Lee's luck incredibly bad so far in this game. He did get some good nose though, and both his cold ones and the Carnosaur with the old blood rallied, so they were now going to be coming back into the fray in the next turn. Here's a quick shot of the left flank. He moves up the Salamander unit and also the Sauruses in this turn. On to magic, and it's 10 dice to the Lizardmen and 6 to the Dwarfs, and Lee goes for chain lightning. I decided to let it go because I've got the Banner of Grungni, and yep, it gives a 5+ ward to the magic. However, I don't save any, and I lose 5 of the Iron Drakes and 4 of the Longbeards. Dwarf turn 3, and there's not a lot of movement, but onto shooting, and the Iron Drakes take out the Salamander, setting themselves up for a charge on the Saurus in the next turn. A really good shooting round for me. I managed to take out the Dreadsaurus with a cannon shot, rolling a 6 for wounds. Yep, it's gone. The rest of the artillery does very little in this turn. Here's a picture showing where the Dreadsaurus used to be. Lizardmen turn 3, and the runes of slowness on the Iron Drakes and on the Longbeards do a really good job. The Saurus failed to charge into my Iron Drakes, and the cold ones fail their charge against the Longbeards. So really useful. In Magic, it's 7-6 to the Lizardman, and he goes for the Comet, and I'm able to eat that with my Rune of Spell Eating, and it's no longer available to him. On to turn 4 for the Dwarfs, and I work out the calculations in my head, well I try to anyway, and decide that I'm going to charge the Saurus with the Iron Drakes, and they make it in, which is a good result. Yep, the Dwarves make it in, and the Strength 5, Weapon Skill 5 attacks is too much for the Saurus warriors. They flee, and I pursue with the Iron Drakes, catch them and run them down. This takes them well out of the way of the possibility of the Carnosaur charging them. And as you can see, the cold ones are no longer there, as the organ guns have destroyed them. Lizardmen turn 4, and not a good start for them. The Carnosaur fails to charge the Longbeards because of the rune of slowness, and the Stegodon charges the crossbowmen, who decide to flee. Just keeps them alive, and means that the Stegodon's going to stumble forward. On to Magic, and the Lizardmen are able to get off Chain Lightning with irresistible force. This hits my artillery battery on the hill. They're out of the 6-inch range of Grungni, so they're going to take a bit of a battering. And as you can see, it takes out one organ gun, the Master Engineer saves his lookout, and it then takes out the cannon. Dwarf turn 5, and I reformed the Iron Drakes to face the Carnosaur, move the Gyrocopter up to then, in the next turn, get at the Saurus warrior block. I shoot the Iron Drakes at the Carnosaur, but they fail to kill either the rider or the beast, so I have to put the organ gun into them, and fortunately that takes the beast down and leaves the Old Blood with 1 wound off him. Lizardman turn 5, and that Rune of Slowness comes into effect again. The Old Blood can't make it in. He didn't charge with the Saurus. It was going to be a little bit troublesome because of the issue around where the Old Blood was, and that building, which really sort of stops him getting the full formation in. Much the same for the Stegodon, but he does charge the Croxigor into the crossbowman, which I stand and take. I managed to do 1 wound on the Croxigors as they charge in. Magic is uneventful. I forgot to mention that the result of the irresistible cast last time was that he took a wound on all 3 majors, so I think he probably didn't want to push things this turn around. Surprisingly, the crossbowmen only lost the combat by 2, and they pass on a 6, so that's going to hold those Croxigor up from getting at my lone remaining organ gun. Dwarf turn 6, I declare a charge on the Old Blood, and he says he's going to stand, so in go the Dwarfs, and combat on. I challenge the Old Blood with my Dwarf Lord, and the Lizard finds out how tough a Dwarf Lord can be when it's got 6 wounds and toughness 7 with strength 6 attacks. Not to say that the Old Blood wasn't tooled up, because he had the sword that when it wounds does D3 wounds. In the end, he does 2 wounds to me, I do 1 wound to him, he fails his break test, he flees 5, and I pursue 6 and catch him. The overrun takes me into the Saurus warriors, which I forgot to mention last time had been hit by the Iron Drakes, steam gunned by the Gyrocopter, and shot at by the organ gun. So where it looks like there's the 3 ranks, there is in fact only 2. Lizardman turns 6, and the Stegodon declares a charge against the organ gun, fails to make it, and then Magic doesn't bother, and then we move on to combat and the results of the Longbeard charge. The lizards are totally destroyed by the strength 5 charge of the Longbeards with armour piercing, and the strength 6 attacks from the Lord and the Thane. Stegadon failed its charge. The only combat left was the Croxigors versus the Quarrelers, and yep, the Croxigors finished them off, and that was the end of the game. So a very big win to the Dwarves. It worked out around about 2,200 points to 300. So a marvellous showing for the Dwarves, but a couple of key things which caused the result: the fleeing of the Carnosaur and the Old Blood and the Cold Ones, and then the failed charges due to the 2 runes of slow on both the Iron Drakes and the Longbeards. Able to get 2 because the rune of 3 allows you to put it onto the BSB and onto the Iron Drakes at the same time. It was a real privilege to play against Lee's beautifully painted and modelled army. Yeah, I had to take the classic defence of refuse flank to protect my flank, and to castle up to give me a chance against the speed and the hard hitting of this force. As I say, I was very lucky that he failed those 2 leadership tests. At the moment I'm 3 from 3 in the league, so doing quite well, and just waiting now for the Dwarfs to get a kick in. But thank you very much for watching. If you like it, please leave a like. Please leave any comments that you want to, and I'll respond to them. Hopefully I'll get another movie up, another battle rep up next week. So thank you very much. See you soon.